What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. Tonight's video is going to be different. We actually did something new on the channel with some of the content that I can't release here, or I'm not comfortable releasing here because of just different situations, right? Japanese content, things that just don't tend to stay up on the channel. So I finally figured out what I'm going to do with that material and how we can still explore it, because there's a lot of K-pop that I don't want to leave unlistened to or listened to without you guys involved in some way, right? So what we did was last week we actually did a Fromis_9 marathon, right? Now Fromis_9, we've only heard one song by them, which was DM. We watched that video first again as a reminder, and I forgot how much I actually loved that song. And the reason why we started with them was because we've checked them out before, and it's probably okay to react to them, but considering their parent company, I'm just not gonna mess with it, right? But I still wanted to hear more. So there was about 6 or 7 of us in our voice chat in Discord, and we just did a marathon of their title tracks. I'm gonna do the same thing with 17, G-Friend, other groups, all the Japanese content, all those things. Instead of trying to put it on another website, right, to try to get around these things like some people do and charge money for it and all that stuff, like I'm not going to do that, right? So this is a cool way for us to do it. If you're part of our Discord, you can jump in, and what was really cool about it was that it was a conversation, right? I'm commenting. Like at first I thought it was just going to be, hey, you know, let's just watch these together, right? But it turned out to be an actual reaction, right? Like maybe not so in depth as they are here, but I was pointing those things out. I was pausing, things like that. But the coolest thing for me was the people that were in there with us could comment back, and they could give their own thoughts about it as well. So it was a conversation, which I really loved, and everybody that was involved seemed to have a good time, and we're going to do them again for sure. So all right, so we started with Fromis_9. So we watched DM just to get a reminder, and like I said, I really do love that song, but I was reminded by them that the other songs were different, right? Like there's a journey. So we started obviously with Glass Shoes, which is their pre-release. It was an interesting song. It's a very pleasant song. It gave me Japanese vibes. It gave me almost anime vibes. Like I could see that being used for a trailer of a new anime game or something like that, right? But what was interesting about it was the lack of dynamics in the song. It was very flat. And not in a bad way. I just mean that the ceiling, when it could have been here, was right here, right? And there was no going up and down. It was just a nice, steady, pleasant track. But what was interesting to me was the way the girls were presented. Like I was getting Twice vibes, and it was in the filming. And I was getting a little bit of Luna vibes as well. And I didn't realize how much all that would come into play until later. But in other words, I was being drawn in, even though the song was nice and pleasant. It wasn't pulling me in, but something about the whole experience was pulling me in. Okay, so then we moved on to To Heart, an interesting intro with a violin, just like Glass Shoes had an interesting intro as well. And it lasted like 30 seconds, right? And it felt like they were setting us up for something, right? First of all, one of the members was playing, and she was actually playing the violin, I learned. And then they brought in recorded strings, and then it felt like they were, building into this song, and then all of a sudden it totally changed. And it went to this just poppy, a really pleasant poppy song. It reminded me of an IU song, to be honest. Very, very much in that vein, and very, very nice. But again, flat dynamics, right? Not a lot of energy, or the energy that was there was just kind of held at bay, right? Almost like they didn't want to give away too much, which was very, very interesting. But again, I noticed how well the video itself captured the members, and little by little, I'm finding myself getting sucked in. But the whole time I was remarking to the people that were there with me, it's like I didn't understand why. Like, why am I feeling this tug? Why am I feeling them pulling at me, even though the music isn't blowing me away? It's just nice, right? And I would find that out later. So next up was DK. Another song I got very, very, very strong Luna vibes from. And I love, I was starting to see, it wasn't just the way the girls were presented, right? Or how the camera panned to them. It was also the styling. The clothes were really, really nice and right up my alley. Really simple, clean, almost old school. Kind of felt kind of 50s-ish just in how clean they were presented, which was really, really nice. I wasn't crazy about the backup vocal mix, but the song was catchy as hell. So, and it was then that the music was starting to get to me, not just them. So that brought us to Love Bomb. And Love Bomb was it was unexpected, to say the least. Like, there were hints of SM in there that I didn't hear in any of the other songs. The other songs, I was feeling Luna vibes, and all of a sudden, I was getting SM vibes, right? And I guess it may have just had to do with the time period that they were released, and there was just a sound that was going around. But I definitely heard Twice in them, and I definitely was getting vibes of IOI as well. And once the chorus hit, it knocked me on my ass. Like, legit, it was so good. It felt like, and I didn't even realize this at the time, the song was nice up until the chorus, but I didn't even realize the lack of bass there, because once that chorus hit, that bass kicked in, and it was just like, bam. And not only just because bass kicked in, but it's because the song was really, really good too. So by that point, I was pretty much sold. I was just like, okay, all right, I get it. Again, we don't always like fall in love at first sight, right? Especially when it comes to music. But I was falling in love with the group all this time, and now the music finally caught up to everything, and I was sold. So that brought us into Fun. And Fun, talk about the SM sound, like, that was full on SM Girls' Generation, Red Velvet. Like, that was just like no holds barred. But what I really loved about it, and I commented on it, was that it was very much an SM style track. Crazy bass, all the crazy instruments, all that stuff, all the instrumentation, the songwriting itself. But what I loved about their take on that style, and I don't know if it's their style, but we definitely hear it a lot from SM, is that it was more palatable, right? It wasn't really jarring in that sense, because a lot of those sounds were kind of, all over the place, but it was done so well, and honestly, in a way that I wish SM did it as well, that it would have made Zimzalabim, for instance, more palatable. If it would have just been done in that From Us 9 way, same instrumentation, but just done in a more palatable way, it would have done wonders for me with that song. But yeah, I was floored again by the change of sound. But the cool thing was, like, the whole time until this period, I wasn't feeling like, oh, all of a sudden they're doing this, or they're doing Girl Crush, or oh, what is this? The rock. It was like, it felt like a steady progression. So it was really, really cool. The ending itself, because even though the mix was done very well, the song itself could be a little bit jarring at some points. And it wasn't until the end I felt like there could have been 10 seconds cut off of it. I don't think they needed to go around a second time, but it's a small thing, right? But it was something worth pointing out. So, and I really love the pre-chorus. So, next up was Feel Good Secret Code. Now, this one gave me a grown-up feel, right? They just had a different vibe, and they went back to the flat dynamics. I did forget to mention it, but Love Bomb and Fun did change in the dynamics, right? There was more life in those songs. But with Feel Good, they went back to that flat dynamic concept where everything is just nice and steady, but it was just a nice grown-up track, so it didn't really need that, especially since it was a very dancey song. So nothing spectacular, just a nice, solid, grown-up track. But that's when it finally hit me, right? This whole time we're going through this and we're watching these in order, right? I'm feeling drawn in, and I just realized that they have their own Twice effect, right? It's because of the way they're presented. It's because of the songs. It's because of the way everything is done, the whole package. They have their own Twice effect, because I was falling in love with this group, even though, well, the music in the last couple of songs was really blowing me away. But just overall, it's just a nice group, right? then I realized they have their own Twice effect. And I believe it has a name, but I totally forgot what that name is. But I was definitely feeling it. So next up, we heard We Go. And this one was very catchy. It felt very celebratory. And someone told me it was because of lockdown. It was inspired by, we were all in lockdown at the time. So they wanted to get away. So it felt very much like they're just getting that angst out, right? And it was a very, very cool track. And it led into Talk and Talk. And Talk and Talk was, I guess, a direct carryover linked to We Go. It was a very good upbeat track. And I was starting to hear vocal progression, because as far as, from the beginning until this point, all the voices are great, like they sound nice and they can harmonize well together, but I was starting to feel them dig in a little bit more in the vocal area, which was really, really cool to see. So I could see that progression. And again, another song with flat dynamics and that singy type of chorus that they've used this whole time, but it all worked. And the instrumental is what really stood out to me at this point, because of how well it was mixed. That instrumental is so sick. Like, it just hits, and it's just nice and round, and all the sounds are just right there in your face, and it's just very pleasing to listen to. But since it still had that flat dynamic with the singy chorus, like their previous work had, it was different. It hit different because the instrumental hit different. So even though it still felt that like From Its Nine of old, I guess, or of the beginning, it was done better. Like, it was a progression, right? It was a progression because that instrumental changed, and it just elevated everything to the next level, which was really, really cool. And after that would have been DM, but we already heard that, and I've given my thoughts about that. I'll put a link up here, to my reaction to that. And then we ended with Stay This Way. And Stay This Way felt, again, like a nice solid track, and it felt like it was celebrating them. The vocal processing definitely was an upgrade, and this is, I believe, this song or the one before is right around when their parent company changed, right? So not necessarily different producers. I don't know how in depth it went, but their company was bought by someone else. So it was a changing of guard, for instance, or more assets were added, right? So you can definitely tell that the production changed a bit, but I definitely noticed that in the vocal processing. So it was really, really cool to finally experience them. It was a cool way to experience them from like beginning to end. Like, we sat in there for, I think the whole thing took about 45 minutes or whatever. We ended up just hanging out and chatting for hours after that. Anyway, I really enjoyed them. Hope you enjoyed this content. I know it's different, but it's just a way for me to share with you guys that I am exploring some things that you don't see on the channel. So anyway, if you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time. Peace.